Welcome to Daily Variety, your daily dose of news and analysis for entertainment industry insiders. It's Thursday, December 4th, 2025. I'm your host, Cynthia Littleton. I am co-editor-in-chief of Variety alongside Ramin Satuda. I'm in LA, he's in New York, and Variety has reporters around the world covering the business of entertainment. In today's episode, we'll hear from Brooke Zogg, Executive Director of the Faith and Media Initiative. That initiative is backed by a broad coalition of organizations that are studying how faith and spirituality are depicted in pop culture. And Variety's Mark Malkin talks to Richard Gere, who is doing his own work on this subject with the new feature documentary about the Dalai Lama, Wisdom of Happiness. But before we get to that, here are a few headlines just in this morning that you need to know. There was chatter on Wednesday that Paramount Skydance is about to get more aggressive in its pursuit of Warner Brothers Discovery. We got confirmation of that this morning with word that Paramount has sent a letter to WBD CEO David Zaslav claiming that the bidding process has been steered toward Netflix, which is one of three contenders for the studio alongside Paramount and Comcast. The Paramount letter accused Warner Brothers Discovery of having, quote, embarked on a myopic process with a predetermined outcome that favors a single bidder. Much more to come on that. Meanwhile, Paramount continues to add creative firepower to the studio. It's inked a broad film and TV deal with Wicked and Wicked for Good director John M. Chu. Hugh Laurie has joined the cast of Apple TV's Tehran for season 3. The drama bows on January 9th and has already been renewed for a 4th season. Rest in peace to two great guitar players, Steve Cropper and Phil Upchurch. Cropper was such a big personality in the HBO docuseries Stax Soulville, USA. Upchurch worked with Quincy Jones, Curtis Mayfield, and Michael Jackson, among many others, over a long career in jazz and pop. Thanks to both for all those great guitar licks. All of these stories and so much more can be found on Variety.com right now. Now it's time for conversations with industry leaders and Variety journalists about news and trends in show business. Next up, we'll hear from Brooke Zogg, Executive Director of the Faith and Media Initiative. She discusses the group's work to help influence more nuanced portrayals of spirituality and people of faith in media. Part of that initiative will be expressed later tonight at Variety's second annual Faith and Spirituality Honors in Beverly Hills. Thank you so much for joining me here today in the restaurant of the Edition Hotel in West Hollywood. It's closed and they graciously have allowed us some space.
Thanks for having me. Thrilled to be here with Variety.
We are talking today because later tonight, Thursday night, Variety will host its second annual Faith and Spirituality Honors in Beverly Hills. We have a great program of awards that recognize people that do the thoughtful work of incorporating issues of faith and spirituality into the fabric of their program, not as a sermon, not as a moment on the mountaintop to preach, but to weave it in as a normal, everyday part of the lives of the characters that they are writing about. Your organization really has put a lot of thought, a lot of energy, a lot of money and resources into research and some advocacy to reclaim the spiritual life of America in much of the programming that America and now the world watches and the world consumes. So with that long preamble, Brooke, let's talk about why it's important that you be here in Hollywood to talk to the heart of the creative community.
Like you said, we've invested in a lot of research with a third-party expert to understand. It feels oftentimes like faith and spirituality has been portrayed negatively or kind of leaning on stereotypes. Is that actually true, and do people care? And what we found is that for many years it has been, like you said, either absent or it's been kind of tropes and stereotypes that are sometimes true in religion, but oftentimes not reflective of the true lived experience of people of faith. And we really wanted to become an advocate for raising awareness on the importance of covering and talking about and exploring what spirituality means, because in fact, in the research we've learned, it's deeply important to many, many people. And when you understand that's the lens in which many people use to make meaning of their life and how they explore purpose, how they overcome hardship and trials, it's a very, very rich way to add depth to stories. And what our goal was is to just help raise that knowledge and those market needs and interests to both newsrooms and studios, to be aware of and confident in covering a very complex topic. And the reason why it's important for us to partner with Variety and do this in Hollywood is Hollywood reflects what culture is. Hollywood reflects what matters to society today. As much as research is important, awards for excellence and showing and modeling what is great is a huge part of our strategy.
I just want to emphasize, like, one of our honorees is Bridget Everett,
Yes.
the star and creator of the show Somebody Somewhere, which is, again, the way the characters search for purpose and meaning in her life. And her definition of spirituality was different. Her definition of family was different, and not what people would stereotypically think of. Well, a faith and spirituality initiative is going to want to impose a certain way of thinking. What I've been impressed by is the depth of the serious research that you're doing with organizations like the Harris Poll, and really trying to understand attitudes of the many generations that make up our world these days. And it's important, but also that you came in saying we want a array of faiths represented. Let's talk more about the FAMI initiative, and tell me what sparked it.
So there's several key stakeholders who are involved. The first group that put money into this was the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, who actually cares. Many of them know them as the Mormons. They care very deeply about freedom of religion. They've invested a lot. They own media companies. And what we've learned is most people actually care deeply about this. And the other thing is, for people who are looking for purpose and meaning, we hope that the narrative that they get is maybe broader than what they've typically received. So there's no proselytization agenda. And then we've received partners like Fetzer Institute as a major funding partner, as well as other individuals from different faith traditions who care deeply about the way that they are portrayed. We have a coalition of over 100 people, from Pillars Fund to Princeton to Paramount, individuals who care, USC, Diane Winston, who runs the Knight Center's Religion and Media Center. So we have individuals all over the country who've been working on this individually, that have come together as a coalition, that are helping us identify how can we help improve faith's portrayal in media. You touched on something earlier about recognizing different films like Somebody Somewhere, and I think a show that comes to mind for me from Israel was, I always butcher the name, Shtizzle, which I watched. I wept through that film because I identified with themes that were so important to them around family, around motherhood, around the complex nature of finding your way and looking a little different than maybe what kind of the community thinks. I think that was true of We Are Lady Pardon, which also I laughed out loud. They were very universal themes.
As we go into what I think of as the roaring 20s of the 21st century, with just massive accelerated change, it's no surprise that people are seeking. By my unofficial poll on Sundays lately, the pews have been packed in my church. And maybe there is something about Gen Z that is perhaps a little more open to all forms of trying to commune with something larger in the universe.
Harris did a United States poll in September, so it's very current, reflective of how people feel today. 76% of that audience, reflective of this country, identified as religious, spiritual, or person of faith. That's over 3/4 of this country. When we looked at that across party lines and across age, it was universally important. So from a Democratic perspective, it was 72%, and a Republican was 86%, Independent was 71%. So 70s up to high 80s. When we looked at age, Gen Z was 77%, and millennials were 78%, and boomers were 73%. So again, it was to make a note that while we don't talk about this, this is universally important. And rather than seeing this as a great divider, it is a great unifier and a great way for us to know and understand our neighbors also care about these things. And it's a great way to understand how people are making meaning in their life. And it is across party lines and across age. And I think there is a huge revival in terms of people looking for faith and spiritual traditions that give added purpose and meaning to their life.
Seeing these generational change in attitudes, I have to believe that it has something to do with there's just so much more content at your fingertips. If you are curious, if you are a seeker, you don't have to go very far from your phone to find all manner of info and avenues to explore. That's got to be having an impact.
100%. I think there's so much content to consume, and that's why we want to be able to ensure that whenever it's possible and relevant, that we incorporate this in a meaningful way so that people just have a much deeper, expanded view of the nuance and the complexity of these types of topics. So one of the films that we recognize as Chief of War, and while that's not about a particular religion per se, it did a beautiful job of showing some people who use religion or prophecy or the belief in a negative way or to use it to cause harm. But with the majority of people on those islands, that was the way that they gave purpose and meaning. It informed their traditions. It informed why they were doing what they were doing. It was a binder for them as families.
You can move people through storytelling. I know this is a hard question, but 5 years, 10 years, what does your home run success look like for FAMI and for the world?
I think a great analogy is GLAAD. GLAAD has done a tremendous job over many, many years to improve the way the LGBTQ community has been portrayed through character development. And we see that great milestones over many, many years of hard work. And we've actually talked with them to understand how they have found great success. And I think for us, this is a long game. This is a big culture change. And to overcome people's fears of tackling this, that people of faith are portrayed as thoughtful, complex people navigating their lives and everyday stories, and that people have the confidence to do this, and we see it regularly. So I think we don't expect this to happen overnight, but we do hope that over the next 10 years that this is more and more common, and that the shows that include this find great commercial success. Another thing that we're learning is that comedy done thoughtfully is another tremendous way to disarm people and cover very complex, hard things when it comes to faith. Is a very meaningful way to connect with audience. So we're going to continue to unveil lots of insights and research, again, to be a model for what kind of stories, what kind of clips, what kind of moments in time and experiences do audiences resonate with in the storytelling.
Brooke, thank you so much for this discussion. I appreciate all of the intention and the work that you've done. Media is such a powerful platform, and it's important how all aspects of life are portrayed.
If I could just finish with one story, when we launched our first round of research, it was at Concordia with Mike Allen, who's the founder of Axios. And he said to a whole group of newsroom people and leaders from around the world, he just said, you know, we cover in the news a lot of complicated topics. We cover war, we cover politics, we cover economics, we cover sexuality. All of those are complicated. But we shy away from religion and faith because it feels complex. But faith fluency is essential for society to be united and understand each other. And we should not be afraid of something because we cover all of the other complicated things. We shouldn't be afraid from this because it is universal and a great connector if we do it well.
Thank you, Brooke. And now, sticking with the theme of the search for meaning and purpose, here's Variety's Mark Malkin. He's got highlights from his recent conversation with Richard Gere about his new documentary on the Tibetan Buddhist leader, Wisdom of Happiness.
Thanks, Cynthia. I caught up with Richard Gere earlier this week to talk about his documentary about the Dalai Lama, Wisdom of Happiness. The film, Gere serves as executive producer, chronicles the 90-year-old Dalai Lama's life. It features the Nobel Peace Prize winner speaking directly into the camera as if he's having a one-on-one conversation with the viewer. It is quite intimate. Throughout the film, the Dalai Lama recalls his childhood and family memories. He also offers guidance about the search for happiness and his belief that compassion and being of service are the key to achieving peace of mind. Gere says the project started as a celebration to mark the Dalai Lama's 90th birthday.
I was thinking, yes, this is the center of this celebration of an extraordinary life. But then in the meantime, the world has gotten so much crazier that it's just taken on a different kind of life to me. That there's a medicinal quality, I think, to this film. In a time where there's a deep sickness.
Gere explains that the Dalai Lama suggests that the film's viewers take a deep breath, step back, and question ourselves.
We're on a very wrong track here. And it's gotten worse over the last years. That just even a sense of basic kindness is lacking. The way people talk to each other, language. And obviously this comes from our leaders, especially the one we have now.
For more of my chat with Gere, he also opens up about being banned from the Oscars for 20 years, Check out my column just for Variety at variety.com.
As we close out today's episode, here's a few things we're watching for. The Red Sea Film Festival kicks off today in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. We'll have a report on Monday from Alex Rittman, Variety's London bureau chief, who is covering the festival for us. Golden Globe Award nominations are out on Monday. Will one battle after another maintain its kudos momentum? We'll find out. Of course, the big event next week comes on Wednesday, when the Variety staff host our third annual cookie exchange. We love to hear from our listeners, so please send thoughts, gripes, and other feedback about Daily Variety to podcasts@variety.com. Before we go, congrats to Doug Herzog and Patrick Vian. They've joined the board of Comic Relief. That nonprofit is definitely becoming more active under CEO Michelle Gainless, who was appointed in January. Thanks for listening. This episode was written and reported by me, Cynthia Littleton, with contributions from Mark Malcolm. Stick, Snicks, Hick, Picks. Please leave us a review at the podcast platform of your choice, and please tune in Monday for another episode of Daily Variety.